Um, hey,
Hey,
everybody,
hello,
friends,
What's
family.
up, Chris? Hey, what's up?
That's
hello,
right.
Hello, everybody.
Watchers, participants. Yeah,
friends.
we're here. What's friends? Did I say friends? I might have missed it. I think that's what I wanted to say first. Welcome. This is we call this channel the Great Transition. Sometimes it's maybe not clear why. Maybe we don't make it clear every show. Let's make it clear right now why this is the Great Transition.
Go for it.
Humanity, the world has been developing for let's just say 14 billion years, right? Let's just throw that number out there, right? We'll start from the beginning, and and then we can say 14 billion years ago existed in the past, and now we're in some present moment right now. But in this present moment, let's stretch it out a little bit and say for this period of I don't know, say like 20 years, maybe 15 years, something. Things are changing, and not just things, but more specifically, the human being is changing. So the great transition right now is looking at what exactly are those changes? What's the direction that we're going in? And so we'll look at things like news articles or just stories on social media, maybe things you heard from your relatives, anything that becomes relevant somehow in the conversation of humanity entering this transitional period where it's one thing and becoming something else. So we're in this transition period. Maybe we don't know how to orient ourselves, but there's all kinds of all kinds of examples that we can take from the world, the current world, and look at them and say, yeah, that's a change, maybe worth noting, or maybe we should dive into that and see what exactly is this pointing to. And today we kind of have like a little new we kind of have like a new setup with how we're going to go about it today. None of us know anything about what the other person's going to talk about. Yes, we do know about the first topic, but we kind of wanted to surprise each other a little bit, change it up a little bit. You know, like a few shows ago we were live, right? So that was new and it was fun. That it was new, and so we're going to try to do it today. Have a little change it up a little bit. So, but we are starting off, excuse me, with one topic what you saw in the title. What's the title of our show today? Yes,
Something about
humans.
extinctions, an endangered species, right?
Yeah, endangered species. Yeah. So listen, let me show you this real quick. Let me just show you where all this is first of all coming from. Uh, for, uh, First of all, do you guys have anything to say about the Great Transition? Or any of you guys like
I'm just
inspired by our times?
eager to start. I'm also happy to see all of these great people from all over the world. It's always amazes me and excites me again, anew to see
I hope
all
we
those
can meet
different
meet everybody
places.
in person one time. It'll be very fun to do an event somewhere
Maybe
because
we should
such
Whoa.
a global.
maybe we should insinuate that there is a Kabu retreat
Ah,
where at least some of us will be there physically, and I'm sure all of us virtually. But this is
In the
an
spring, in
opportunity
early
for,
spring. Yeah, there we go.
yeah, May. Yeah, I didn't plan on it, but here we go. Yeah, May
plug it.
5 through 7 in Holland. It's a place close to Amsterdam. We're going to be there for a 3-day event. It's going to be amazing.
For
Dang.
people who are part of KABU. So if people are already
Yes,
students
but
in KABU or if they
but
want to
this
be
is
part of
a
KABU.
but this is a long notice. Even if you're not yet in KABU, if you like the Great Transition, if you're here watching this show with us in this podcast,
By the way, we'll also be
you're
doing an event in the fall in the States, right? So if you're in North America,
oh yeah. This
so
one
it's
is obviously is easier for if you live in
spring for
Europe.
Europe,
Yes,
Africa. Come join us. I saw
yes.
somebody's here from Ethiopia, so
Okay, we'll
Whoa.
probably mention it more as we get closer.
okay.
But those who are, if it's relevant for you, start thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway,
Great.
go ahead.
Yes,
Go
Yetzi in the
ahead.
Good.
Netherlands. You can bring us. I don't know.
Netherlands.
Yeah, so
Yes,
Yetzi says
yes.
in the
Get your
Netherlands. Yes, we'll be
train
your country.
ticket. Yeah, you
Yes.
don't need a plane. Okay, so here we go. Zooming back into real world, yeah, current events. Okay, this is not exactly current. A lot of these topics, a lot of these articles that I'm taking are about a year old. But here's the gist, right? So you guys can see the title here. Toxic chemicals threaten humanity's ability to reproduce. Probably not the first time you guys are seeing that or hearing of that. Um, I don't know how much into detail I want to go. Basically, you've got a few scientists, and it's not just a few, but it's a kind of a community of scientists who specialize in looking at this trend of, well, you know, what's going on with fertility. That includes sperm count, right? It includes the ability for the woman to reproduce as well. There's that. Yeah, specifically this professor Shauna Swan. It's kind of a tongue twister. Shauna Swan. If you don't prepare yourself, it doesn't come out right. She says that most couples may have to use assisted reproduction by 2045. I also saw an interesting statistic that it was it 2045. I wrote it down. Pretty sure it was 2045. And 2045, 2050, sorry. 2050, they're expecting the world population to be 10.4 billion.
Okay.
So even though we've got a reproduction issue, we're still expecting the population to increase. So yeah, we're presenting this as like a way that it was presented to us, like here in this last little article. Falling sperm counts threaten human survival. Okay, is it really threatening human survival? I don't know. What, Asaf? What? Tell me.
I'm wondering if one of these articles, which one of them has that number of the 1 in 4 couples can't conceive or have a hard time conceiving or something like that.
This was from Shauna Swan. Let's see, one. Let's just put in
Uh-huh.
the number four, I think.
Right. Okay.
Oh. Sorry, I didn't see it was 1 in 4. I
Anyway,
think it was they took it from they took it as a percentage. I can't remember what it was.
okay. I just wanted to
Um,
bring that up because when I saw that, that's a big deal. It sounds like a big deal, at least. I mean, if you take that number, I don't know, how accurate it is, and so on and so forth. But if you take that and you say, listen, 1 in 4 people today can't conceive, that's a big number, you know.
I
So,
didn't see that
yeah.
and there are some situations like I mean if you look at the projection, let's say from 1973, so they're taking kind of like a chunk basically from 1973 to 2011. That's when this big research was done. They basically saw a huge plummet in infertility, around 60% plummet. And that's where she's kind of like going off of this. But basically, there's a lot of factors, right? And we can't really ignore them. The factors being, I don't know, first of all, the chemicals. That's kind of the big one. The chemicals that have been introduced into the environment, which have, I mean, everything from soaps to plastics, you know, that just leak into everything. It just has
Hmm.
a lot of,
It seems that
it
also
influences
probably
the sperm count a lot.
more developed countries will have this more because the sperm count decrease has to do with stress. It also has to do with plastic in the environment. It also has to do with all kinds of environmental things. So if you're living
Right.
closer to nature,
Nutrition.
yeah. So it's also interesting to see like which populations will be able to keep increasing
Mm.
and which ones will
You
decrease.
know,
But
Right.
just a few, maybe 2 weeks ago, our friends here in Israel, our Kabbalah friends, asked our teacher about this sperm count thing when it just got out. The news just got out, and he said, "Yeah, pollution, toxins. What else is there? Malnutrition.
Obesity. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
all that stuff. No doubt, it harms our health, but it's not the reason of reasons, and he said, like, and like, what, the Kabbalist is not a what's the name of the,
environmentalist.
no, 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 what's the name of the people who who are experts in sperm counts? Is there what
Oh,
field is that? What, epidemiologist, I
Reproductivologist.
guess. I guess it's
Maybe. Yeah.
epidemiology. Anyway, that's not what he is. He's a Kabbalist, but from the spiritual roots that ultimately drive the whole system, including ultimately even things like reproduction of the human species. He says that the it's actually very interesting that in most cases where couples can't conceive, first of all, it's usually a problem with the sperm, with the man, and that the man is very sensitive, and that the quality of the sperm is also very sensitive and has a lot to do with the nervous system of the person, and that ultimately things like stress, tension, anxiety, these things are much more influential than what we eat.
Yeah.
And that's why ultimately, you come down to you're moving towards the same conclusion that we're always talking
Yes.
about.
Well,
That,
you can take factors like
yeah.
plastic and be like, okay, how much exposure? These things are being exposed into the environment more. These people, but really, if everyone is stressed, everyone is like stretched a little bit, then who are you taking? It's like, what did they try to do? They tried to find out what they tried to find the blood. They tried to find the PFCAs or whatever it was. They tried to find clean blood. They couldn't find clean blood because it's just everywhere, So there's no base to take from. That's kind of where it seems like we are now. So I don't know really if there's too much to go into, especially after what you said right now, But it is a trend. I mean, there's a clear trend that sperm count's going down, fertility is going down. Yes, there are other reasons to name like we said before, the chemicals and nutrition. And on the women's side, people, first of all, it's expensive to have children, so people are either waiting to have children or not having children at all. That's not necessarily talking about sperm count, but it's talking about fertility an issue or, in general, or having the population.
Oh,
going up.
right. Did you see
So
did you see this one? Wait, no, wait.
that's
This
black
one? This
screen.
one. This.
There it is.
Did you see this one? This is not a very new, but this article is new. There's a study that predicts that 45%. This is in the U.S. It doesn't say it in the title, but in the U.S., 45% of women will be single by 2030. I mean, if you want to take if you want to also take a social cultural kind of
Right.
perspective on what's happening, then and it's an interesting thing, because there's this double standard in today's society where they even write about this here, the person who writes about it, that single men are considered lonely, single women are considered empowered. That's kind
Empowered,
of where
yeah.
our society is going. And
Interesting.
the reasons that that this study predicts it is not because that has nothing to do with pollution and toxicity in the environment and
The social
nutrition.
issue, right?
It's a social issue. Basically, women are, and it's obvious almost today. I'm saying these words and it sounds like obvious, right? Women are less and less and less interested, and are pressured to, but also just interested in marriage and children. It just and that by itself is a huge question, is a huge issue. I mean, that's a fascinating thing. I mean,
Biologically, there was a point where that's what a woman was. She was a creature that reproduced and took care of the children, and then
what do you mean
culturally-
was? Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying this was when we lived
yeah.
just on instinct. This was
Yep.
no. I mean that
No.
there was a time that a woman reproduced children. A female creature reproduced children of the species, and now that our species, meaning human beings, are developing, we realize we don't have to just function only as animals who just live and procreate like animals do. I can say, hold on, I want to dedicate my life to painting or
Oh,
to
yeah.
travel or to something else, and so I don't have to do
Growth
what
of desire, you could say.
Huh?
Growth of desire, you could say.
Yeah,
Increase
I
in
don't have to
desire.
just follow what's my instinctual biological programming. In
But
that
that-
sense, is it
Is it what?
is it is it is it bad?
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
wait a
that's a
second.
controversial
Wait a
question,
second. That's
isn't
the
it?
that's the yeah. This is the question. Yeah. What is? First of all, this is what I wanted to ask you guys before we can stray. That's fine. That this is. I just want to give you what was going on in my head first.
Go for
We
it.
are seeing that. But okay, people are even make the argument. There's too many people in the world. I think that's a reasonable argument. There are too many people. Maybe you can say that there's not enough resources, even though there are enough resources. We just don't know how to distribute them, right? We've talked about that a few times. So you could make an argument that, yeah, there are too many people. So is what's happening? Here's kind of an interesting question. Is what's happening kind of this mechanism in nature that's been activated to calm it down a little bit? And if so, is it considered bad then? Are we trying to correct an issue? Or are we just or
I think people
is it
didn't
something to
feel.
be concerned about?
I think people stopped feeling that they are satisfied by being a parent or being, just getting married and having kids, because at the
Interesting.
end of the day, we want to be
Seth,
fulfilled.
crank your volume a little bit.
Maybe I'm
A
not
little bit,
close
a little
enough because
bit.
my gain is cranked. Can you hear me better?
Now it's a
Check,
little
check. Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
maybe Zoom has one of those automatic. Oh man, I lost it
Anyway,
already. Like
we hear you
noise
fine.
removal.
It's just if you could give us a little
Okay.
bit more
What I'm saying
volume,
is that
but it's
that
good.
we are a creature that is just wants to be fulfilled. We're constantly looking for how can we fulfill ourselves. So if it's not if a person feels that getting married or having children is not fulfilling me,
Hmm.
then they're gonna want to do something else, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, you could look at this from several perspectives that are that all align with the wisdom of Kabbalah. Also, I mean, because on the one hand, we learn from the Kabbalistic paradigm or prism that the evolution of human nature is the growth of desire. And the growth of desire means not just that we want more stuff as we evolve, we want more qualitatively, we want more specific, we want more and more. Our desires are evolving in a qualitative way, and that means that we are gradually looking for something beyond our just biology, just to have food, just to have sex, just to have children, just to have descendants and procreate, and this biological imperative to bring children. So that's interesting. I mean that that's a perspective that says, of course, less women want to have children and people in general, because they want to develop themselves more and they're less tied to this biological imperative. On the other hand, we also know from a Kabbalistic perspective that if you want to develop actually as a human, and that means spiritual development, then that happens not in detachment from this world, meaning there's a purpose to your biological development as well. It's like a basis that you stand on. There are some human discernments that you can make only as a person
So
who
meaning
becomes a
as being a
parent.
person,
Yeah.
right?
As a parent, that's the key. Okay, now I
Yeah.
get what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and society therefore needs parenthood in
So it's a
human
phenomenon.
culture needs. One second. Human culture, just want to make sure that that point is that I said it clearly. Human culture, in order for it to be stable, to be sustainable from a Kabbalistic perspective, the quality, the value of parenthood is really important because it teaches people how to behave with each other and how to behave with the planet. Even when you become a parent, it changes you fundamentally, and that is an important feature of the human condition. And if that's missing, that could be that is a problem. That is a problem for the sustainability of human society long term. Forget the fact that we also need to procreate just to continue surviving. But
Right.
yeah. Anyway, yeah.
But
Go
I think
ahead.
that's a less of a question. That part is like it's a less serious
Right.
aspect of
Right.
this whole thing going extinct. Which wait a second before I go into this kind of side tangent thing, Seth, you were trying to say something earlier. I
Yeah.
did, and I
Yeah. Yeah.
I missed
There's
it.
I
there's a
insisted.
phenomenon in Europe that Emmanuel Macron from France, Angela Merkel, who was running Germany, Theresa May from the UK, Italian Prime Minister.
She's
Anyway,
still in office.
Italy, Holland, Scotland, uh, Sweden, and the head of the European Commission, none of them had children. So
Oh,
when you
it's a,
have,
it's a good point.
yeah, when
Yeah.
you have leaders of countries or
Ah,
leaders of entire regions who don't have children, if you have a child, you you have something at some point. If you're a normal, healthy person, at some point, something even if you're out all day, at some point something pulls you. You remember them. You remember that you want to make sure they're fed. You remember that you want them to be healthy. You also, you hurt when they hurt.
You know what it means to care about something or
Yeah,
somebody
even
outside of
just
yourself a
there you
little
just
go.
the
bit.
fact of living for something beyond just my
Right.
body, and making it comfortable,
Yeah.
even just
right.
that, just triggers a different kind of human in you.
So yeah, so this is
And it's not
the
even
kind of
correction.
decision.
It's not even like a correction of human society. It's just a basis from a Kabbalistic perspective. It's just something on which we stand in order to then grow beyond that spiritually. Anyway, yeah.
Right.
You have fundamental the foundation of your life is not just about yourself. Even
Exactly.
if it's still on an animal level, you still are built your day to day. You must consider others.
Mhm.
So
Well, I know.
it's-
I even know. Yeah.
that's the point. The point is that there are many world leaders who don't have children. So what kind of decisions can they be making for the future?
Right.
How can they?
It's hard for them to empathize, even maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
No,
it.
that-
Wait a second. So, well, I was going to say that I even know somebody that that said, like, we've had some talks about Kabbalah. Sometimes he's not really that close. He's still kind of far away, but he says if it wasn't for my kids, I don't know even why I would even be alive. So if it even brings that discernment into a person, like, okay, I've done everything for me, then you have kids, and then you're able to basically continue enjoying a little bit of life.
When Seth spoke about the world leaders, there is an example that came to my mind. I just realized I read yesterday, that the New Zealand's prime minister, and again, let me preface by saying, I'm not saying anything from a political perspective. I'm not a supporter of this guy or this girl, world leader, or this person or that person. I'm just pointing out things that I think are interesting from a Kabbalistic perspective, and that from relating to what Kabbalah says about the evolution of the world. And that's what we're doing here in general. So don't, misconstrue me when I'm mentioning politicians.
We just need to have that bit recorded and just play it every time.
Yeah, just play it every
find
time.
ourselves in this situation.
Jacinda Ardern, I think is her name, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. I saw an interesting thing. She's, by the way, the world's youngest Prime Minister. She does have a child. She's, she received a lot of praise for how she handled COVID in her country, at least when it just happened. And in general, there's a very, very big approval rate, at least, that brought her into office and all that. Like she garnered a lot of support from her people. And it's very interesting. She just announced, so I read yesterday, that she's going to step down, even though she basically has the opportunity to continue. But she's basically saying, I just see that this thing takes a lot of power, obviously, for me, and I just feel like I'm not going to be able to continue and do my best absolute job, So
When do you ever hear a politician say that?
and I'm saying that's an interesting. My point is not to say, wow, she's like what a hero, but I'm saying like in a society where the leaders, need to actually be accountable to what they're doing and actually do their roles in the best possible way. That's a good example, in my view, that that someone can say that. I mean, it's kind of a little strange in the scenery of
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just an interesting thing. I also remember that also, again, our teacher said something when we were in the midst of COVID and she was doing really well with, in her country. Then also I remember our teacher said a word or two about how you see at least some approach there that reflects motherhood towards the people in a way. That reflects some sort of a, this country is mine. I need to take care of these people, and something in that actually worked, even if it was temporary. And again, nothing here is a correction, a spiritual correction here. We're not talking about, but just on a social political level, it is interesting to point out. Anyway, That's it. Didn't want to
Yeah.
go
Well, you also
that
have
deep into
you
it.
also have the opposite. It's interesting that you said that you also have the opposite in California. There's some senator who's literally going senile, not remembering the people she's around, and refusing to leave office. You know, it's like basically the opposite. It's like I'm not
It,
here to
it,
care about
it
anyone
it's
else. If I could care about someone else, then I would do it.
it's
But
just show yes, exactly what you're saying. It's just so weird for us today to even consider appreciating leaders and evaluating how they do by trying to actually see if they care about people, you know,
right.
if they actually are concerned about the people. And it's ridiculous because that is what a leader really means. If you're a leader, that means that you care about the people whose fate, you know, depends on you, that you're responsible for their lives in many ways. And today
Yeah.
it's like to be a leader means that you can win a popularity contest, you know, that you
In the
can like
last,
That's basically.
I think
it's
in the last 80
ridiculous.
years,
It's
the
just
U.S. has
ridiculous.
spent, I think, $20 trillion on the war on poverty.
There you okay.
Okay,
I thought on
on the war on
on
poverty.
okay.
$20 trillion
Okay.
on the war on
$20
poverty.
trillion dollars.
There's still tons of poverty here.
Yes.
It's just these are just they pass programs and create organizations in order to pay themselves. There's no care,
Right.
actual care for the people.
Oh, I see
With
what you're
twenty
saying.
trillion dollars,
Yeah.
you could definitely eliminate poverty if you had. That's a plenty of
That's crazy.
resources. If you
20 trillion? What? You know
How much? Okay,
the
how much
analogy we
money
use.
goes? I don't have the number. If it'll be cool if we can get it. But how much money goes worldwide for political campaigns when there's an election year?
What do you mean
You know-
probably
worldwide?
would never even see because
you
it's
know-
all under. It's
Oh,
all
worldwide.
it's behind closed doors. You know
Yeah.
who's gonna
Well, you
get
know.
to run a pipeline through my country and all that.
Mm.
But here's the thing: we
Yeah.
know this; it's clear, obviously. But if you cared for others, you wouldn't want to destroy the world. You wouldn't
Yeah.
want to do things that hurt others.
Right. So
Right.
simple.
So it seems so obvious.
is that
and
why we
stupid.
need to
We
have
should just
children?
Close our doors after one show and just say, if people cared about each other, all the problems would go away.
But you see, you
Yeah.
can't even care. You can't even. You have to get in. You have to be forced into fatherhood, into parenthood before you can start even having like. It's like first of all the emotion it comes, and you're like, oh my god, I'm a parent. I have to take care, and then the brain comes. And you start thinking about it and doing it differently. Wait a second, I want to go back to the trillion. 20 trillion, that's crazy. Because remember when we talk about how many seconds is a million, how long is a million seconds? And then they're like, I don't know, it's like whatever it is, like a week or whatever. And then you say a billion seconds and they're like 32 years. You know how many a trillion seconds is?
How many?
Okay.
A
It's
trillion
almost
seconds.
32,000 years.
Unbelievable. So in the last
So
50
20
years,
trillion dollars, right?
so in
Okay,
the
tell
last
us. Yeah.
50 years, U.S. taxpayers have spent $22 trillion on anti-poverty programs. That's adjusted for inflation numbers. So that's, but the three times the cost of all U.S. military wars since the American Revolution, et cetera, et cetera. So it should be enough money to deal
You'd
with
think.
pretty much any problem. So here's an interesting point that the Kabbalists understand clearly. We say that people lived instinctually, and then a modern person decides, you know what, I'm not fulfilled in just giving birth or just being a dad. I want to be a rock musician and travel the world. I want to be a painter. I want to do this. I want to start a business. I want to do all these things. I don't want to just do what I instinctually programmed to do.
Right.
So I'm going to now do something else, right? Which is
Yep.
not what I've biologically been doing. My ancestors have been doing for the last hundreds of thousands of years. But the Kabbalist comes and says, no, even that free choice that you think you have that makes you want to be a painter, that's also part of the program. You don't understand yet that that's part of the program. So this whole trend, and why I'm bringing it up, is because there have already been, as far as our science can show us, there's already been 5 extinctions on Earth,
Right.
right? Where like 70, 80, 90%.
Mass extinctions.
Mass
Yeah.
extinctions, like the dinosaurs. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, right, which
Yeah.
was one of them, right. So, too much CO2, too little CO2, too much oxygen, too, dust that covered the sun. So there's been, and from the perspective of the Kabbalists, this all this whole thing is part of of the program of development, because
Yep.
you wouldn't each time you get all new species. I think they say like 90% of the species that ever existed are extinct now. Right?
Right.
It's crazy to think
I
about.
don't remember
Renewal
the
is like
number,
the
but
is
that's
like the
crazy.
removal.
Yeah, I
So-
mean,
so- so-
and
Renewal
think
means
about it.
like
Even
something it ceases to exist and something new comes, right?
Yeah.
even in your body, your cells renew themselves. I think every 3 months or something like that. Like you are
It depends
not.
on what cells.
You're yeah. Of course, some of them remain, but I think the majority. I think I don't remember the exact numbers.
No,
here,
it's just they have
but-
different rates.
But and they have different rates, right? And blood cells renew at a different rate, and muscle cells.
You're a new
at
person
different
every
rates.
7 years or
But
something
you're a
like that,
new
completely
person,
new.
exactly. Every
Yeah.
this or that amount of time, you're like, physically speaking, you're a completely different thing.
That is crazy to think
So,
about. I forgot about
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that's where you're going. You were going somewhere with that, but
What I wanted to point out was that we think that what's happening is because now we have some free will, that we can choose not to follow our instinct. But even this diverge, we're saying now that
Like how
women-
people don't want to have children, how women want to be
yeah, or
single.
that women would be
That-
single. Women, if they wanted a man, a woman can get a man. Every man wants to be with a woman, so it shouldn't be that all of those people would be alone. But this kind of concept that I'm free, I'm making a decision, that I want something better, I'm not going to settle for this, I'm going to wait for this. All of this is also part of the program of development that we're going through.
Right. Ooh, speaking of programs. Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
No, I just because here's
Another
one
program?
thing. Yeah, no, it's I wanted to show you something, and Seth just said programs. The okay, wait. Let me better connect it. This whole situation where women want to be a lot more and more women want to be single. We just saw the statistics say almost half the women in the US within 7 years will be single. That's just, when you think about the numbers, what that means.
will be single means they're in a relationship now, and they will end that relationship.
They're just doing some statistics, I guess longitudinal statistics and other things, and then they predict that women aged 25 to 44 in the US by 2030, 45% of them will be single. That's a big number. And then again, that is women. Anyway, and then I'm just thinking
That's a quarter of the population.
And then and you know how there's also this development of this kind of subculture of incels, I think they call themselves, or which basically, incels basically means men who are involuntarily celibate. So basically, and that's another thing, and they're developing like a whole kind of antagonistic attitude towards women. There's a very weird
frustrated.
yes
Don't hate
there's there
Must be so frustrated, so much inner.
Oh yeah.
but
tension.
think about now what's happening to society now. If you think about all of society, I know this is an oversimplification, but if you think about all of humanity as one man and one woman, okay, something is changing and not going so great with these two parts,
Yeah,
and
you could say
some
that.
of it is also, and we're also very much blurring differences between genders, between the sexes, between like what is a woman and what is a man. And of course today it's more and more legitimate for you to be not even necessarily a man or a woman. Maybe you're somewhere on the spectrum between a man and a woman today, what they call gender fluid. There's all kinds of ideas today that you as an individual can subscribe to and decide that this is for you. And it doesn't have to be the traditional kind of old school thinking of I'm like this, I'm like that. I'm just saying all of this is happening. And if you think about all of humanity as one man, one woman, there's the relationship and the dynamic of the relationship between the man and the women is brewing and and developing, and where is it going, is really the question that I'm asking myself when I see all those things. And now at the same time, sorry, now program, right? So check out what
Yeah,
is
we were
happening
waiting.
while all of this is happening, between the sexes. You have this kind of phenomenon. Wait, this. There are a lot of people who, remember we talked about Replica. Replica is this
Yeah.
AI
Yeah, the
chatbot
chatbot.
that's already
Okay.
up and running for a couple years. So here is what it's doing right now. Apparently, people are complaining about being sexually harassed by their chatbots.
Where did it get
So
that
so
behavior
how
from?
no exactly, where do they get that behavior from? Check this out for a second. Let's just there was here you go, this review. Let me put it on another, uh, just blow it up a little bit. Okay, so here this is a guy who, I guess, a guy who says, I don't know, man or woman, actually I don't know. It's a person who wrote, it will try and have an erotic role play with you. You can't turn it off, and it'll try and charge you for money. And then of course the responses, the developer responds, the app owner, whatever, they respond, thanks you for reviewing. Sometimes the AI model makes mistakes in identifying the context of a conversation, which can lead to saying inappropriate things. To avoid chat you don't like, downvote to the undesirable messages, whatever. But the bottom line here is, isn't it really, really bizarre that we've got to a point where our technology makes unwanted sexual advances towards us? And clearly, what does it mean? It's the app owners trying to make money at the end of the day. I mean, we can, right? You,
Yeah.
you see it just as well, just as clearly as I see it, right? It's clear as a bell. Just like the
Oh, well,
social.
first of
the-
all, remind us about Replica. We did a show about it, and it
Replica
was
is a
an app you could
chatbot.
download to have.
So it's a chatbot that is basically an AI companion. So if you want to talk to someone, just someone who you can talk to about your personal feelings, your personal thoughts, maybe some sort of some psychologist like kind of companion, or just a friend, something like that. So it's a chatbot that's very sophisticated, and it's designed to kind of talk to you and be like a friend. um, and clearly what's happening here, I to me it sounds like just like the social media feeds on TikTok, or Facebook or whatever. They just hunt for your attention all the time. So now these chatbots are just hunting for your sexual urges, I guess. It's very, but this is happening
Why not? I guess.
while society has this very strange and
Well, more and more people are
problematic
alone.
tear between men
Yeah.
and women. Yeah. Well, what? Go ahead.
Yeah, more and more people are alone.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then
That's what
using like porn and chatbots in order to like deal with their loneliness when there's like half the people are available. It's mental.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's an interesting.
So well
That's
said.
interesting.
Well said.
Yeah.
Hey, alone. Forget just being alone. And we talked about the blurring of
Here we go. He's
differences
got more.
between. No, I do have more. If you.
Here we go.
Okay,
Bring
just
it on.
just watch this thing. So we said that we're in a time where people can just decide that they don't want to be the gender that they were assigned by birth, so they just decide that there's something else, but they can also apparently decide they want to be something that's not even a human gender. Check this out. This is a guy in
Got
Japan
a collie?
who, this is not a, this is, yeah, it's a collie, but it's not an actual collie. This is not a dog. This is a person in a costume that, wait a minute, I think that there's a video we can actually, it's a person
It
in a
does seem
costume
like something Japan
that
would do.
paid a lot of money to get this costume to be tailor-made for him, so he can actually behave like and feel like a dog.
A dog.
So
let me tell you that
yeah
that
yeah Japanese man
If we
pays
can,
nearly $16,000 for
I'm
life-size
happy
dog
for him.
costume
I'm
to
happy for
fulfill
him.
his dream.
So
Okay. Yeah, no,
yeah,
I'm
so
not
I'm for
judging,
him,
not judging, just,
and
this is
and I
happening.
I
Facts are
think
facts.
I think that the way out of this, or not the way out, the way forward through all this is to be able to speed up our discernments, because you know a man and a woman can get together as a couple and both be completely sexually frustrated and feel that they have all this desire inside of them, but they don't know how to relate to each other and they don't know how to communicate to each other about it. So they end up splitting up and then porn or dating or apps or whatever. Or here's a guy, he just wants to, he feels all of these animal instincts inside of himself and he just wants to, but what happens is we get these instincts and stuff, but instead of just being able to process them and understand why they exist in us, because we came from animals and we have crazy sexual urges inside of us, all of these are totally natural things, but because we don't have a way to process them and just move through them, it turns out that my whole identity becomes I want to be a dog, or my whole identity becomes I need to set up a whole sex dungeon in my basement, or instead of just being able to go through all of in a healthy and natural way, what are these things that are moving in us? Where's nature moving us? What should I, what is normal, what's not normal? How can I develop correctly? So as Kabbalists, we're constantly used to going through, like a month of discernments in an afternoon.
Quickly.
We're
Yeah.
moving, because we have these mechanisms and texts and the way we work between us that these things arise. We understand where they're coming from. We understand where they're going, more or less. We understand how to work with them, how to draw the light, and all these different things. But a person has some sexual urge or something. I can't tell my
that
spouse
becomes, and that overtakes and overshadows
it for like
everything
months,
else.
and they're
kind of thing.
hiding it, and they're like driving somewhere and lying to their wife when they'll be home, and instead of just like they probably just have a good time together as a couple, and then like move on with their life or something like that. I'm just using a silly example.
No, of
but
course, the
there's so many
example's
things
clear,
that everyone's getting stuck on because we don't understand what is the process we're in, what is natural, what is happening inside of me. And like here, this guy, he spent how many hours dealing with his dog suit and having to deal with his family and whatever. Probably he just feels inside him some something or something.
I do have
probably natural.
I do have a Kabbalistic joke that only
my favorite
Kabbalists
kind.
will understand. So
Okay.
so we'll
Let's
do
hear
it. Okay, you know what I just thought when I have the tab still open on my other screen here, and as Seth was talking, you know what quote? Just think about what quote comes to your mind as a Kabbalist when you see that.
We were
I don't
all
see
as
anything yet.
beasts.
I
No,
don't see anything yet. But what
no,
are we
no,
looking at?
the same thing I
No,
showed before.
the last.
What's
Yeah.
Oh
what's
yeah,
the Kabbalist?
obviously, yeah.
Which one? Which one?
They were all as beasts.
No,
right?
there's a better
No,
one.
he said no. He said it's not
The
it.
face of the generation is the
Oh,
face of the
face of
dog.
the dog from Zohar.
Okay. We'll
Ah,
no, that's
nice.
that was
It was a
coded
I wasn't
joke,
ready for that.
joke in a coded language. Sorry for
let's
that.
take a
Yes.
let's take a break for 1 second. There's two people in the chat said they don't know what we mean when we talk about a discernment.
Right.
What is a birur, birurim?
Yeah.
Maybe we can describe it in a clear
That's,
way.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
good. I mean, you should go back. Use that example before that you talked about the having the issues with the house with the wife, and you're not solving it. So you go look at other things. You could say that the changes, what causes the changes from you to think one way into thinking another way, is basically the same as like question and answer. That's what we say about the wisdom of Kabbalah, is that the whole process is basically having a question and then receiving an answer for that question, and then receiving another question and receiving an answer for that question. A discernment is basically understanding that you're standing in front of a question that you don't know the answer to, and then you receive an answer to that question. It doesn't have to be. It's not like a voice comes to your head, but where something is not clear to you, it all of a sudden becomes clear, and it could be you can extrapolate that into all different directions. That's basically what a discernment is. I don't know, maybe there's a better way
No,
to
it's a
describe it.
great explanation, I think, and I would even extend that into, like, Chris described it on an individual kind of scale, and it also exists on a global scale, meaning all of humanity as a species, right? The title of our show today is, are we becoming an endangered species? Like, what we are becoming, what we are going through throughout our entire human evolution from a Kabbalistic perspective, is we're going through a process of self-scrutiny, where we are making spiritual discernments, meaning this entire reality with all of human development and all of human history is actually human consciousness scrutinizing what it is and what it needs to become. We are going through everything that we're going through in life, personally, socially, globally, as a species, in order to figure out who we really are, what we're really doing here, what is our purpose as human beings. And that every stage towards that realization is, you can say, a scrutiny, where we make discernments, where we self-scrutinize and understand better and better who we are, what we're here to do.
Yeah, typically
Yeah.
these things take, well, societally, they take generations. For example, you had Europeans, and then you had Africans, and then you had slavery, and then you have this, and then you separate, and then this, until finally everyone comes. And then you have, for example, you're not allowed to be gay in public. Okay, now you can be gay in public. Now you can be gay and married in public. And then you can this, until everyone kind of, it takes generations and generations until everyone finally says, okay, we accept everyone. Everyone is equal. We all come together. But how many people had to die? Until we understood that we're all equal? How many kind of corruptions were like, not just that I need to be gay, but I need to make sexuality my entire identity, right? Or not just that I need to be like, against slavery. I have to become militant in order to balance, like, so many different
We go to
wild
the extremes. We go to the
have to happen
extremes.
in order to finally go through. And what happens as a Kabbalist is that everything develops according to 4 phases, and there's a whole process of the mind and the heart and how to work together with others, because you can't just do it in yourself. It has to be against what's going on outside of you. But you process those things without needing bloodshed, without needing to
Without
wait
anything physical,
3
any kind of
lifetimes.
physical action, any kind of, without anything on the outside happening, which usually forces you to think a different way. You just think a different
So-
way from your own inner thoughts.
Right. So the purpose of the extinction, or this topic here, is like, if we're not as society going through these discernments together, then that light, which cannot enter inside of us and clothe inside of us, it pushes on us from the outside. It's called the surrounding light that pushes us and moves us forward. But it moves us forward, if we're not doing it internally, it moves us forward through things that we're smashing on the outside to have a war. And then we say, oh, well, that's not really working out. We should figure out how to do that. Or some eruption in society, and we're saying, oh, that's not working out. We're pushed from the outside to figure out how to organize ourselves together better, if we cannot, between us, through the inner work, figure out how to equalize ourselves together.
Yep. And also, you guys
It has to
said
be in
it.
stages.
Yep. Go ahead. What were you saying, Chris? You were
That
saying,
it has to be in stages.
right.
It also has to be in stage. You can't just give you can't give a formula that you get in I don't know, 5th level organic chemistry or whatever in university. Give that to a kindergartner.
Right.
Like, what are they going to do with that? You can't just be given a discernment. The discernments have to be accumulated and built. And it's great question. I'm glad that they brought it.
It is a good question, and also, you guys, just from your answers, you set it up really beautifully to also maybe shed some more light on, why are we so like, it may seem for some people like we're picking on, why are those Kabbalists picking on the issue with, like, different blurring of gender differences, and the war of the sexes and men and women. This is like a huge part to us, studying the forces that drive creation that drive human evolution, ultimately you see that there are two forces, two opposite forces that are driving everything that's happening, whether it's the plus and minus in the atoms, or the heat and cold, or the ebb and flow, or the male and female. And these are two forces that are constantly in a constant interplay. And that interplay between two opposite forces, ultimately they're spiritual forces, that is what gives birth to a new discernment within a person, within a society, within the whole of humanity.
We should say also, Asaf, that it's in every man has both. And
Of
in every
course,
woman,
of course.
not just-
From a Kabbalistic perspective, first of all, a soul is something we need to move away from, religious ideas of what a soul is. But a soul, it's a technical term in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and it includes both masculine qualities and feminine qualities. When you develop your soul, what you're developing is the right connection, the right dynamic, the right interplay between the masculine and the feminine. And humanity is right now, one second, in the process of trying to figure out, what are we doing with these opposite forces? How do we balance them? So we were going through a process of trying to figure out what's happening with these two opposite forces within us. Go ahead.
When that force from the outside, which is the general positive force, plus force, and the force inside of us is the general minus receiving force, when we can when that light, when we can absorb it into us, then that's called that's called our soul. That's what it is. When we take the light, the light of reality, and through our inner development, clothe it inside, that's called the soul.
Well, and you can just even say it even more simply, just understanding the mechanism, the reality that you're in front of and that you're in. And whereas before it's a question, you don't really know anything. You attain pieces of your soul, everything becomes more clear to you. It becomes clear just as real as this world is. The why and the causes also become clear to you.
Hey, guys,
I'm holding on to something before you guys move on. I want you guys to set me up, so I'm ready. I'm waiting for you to set me up so I can reveal this.
I was just about to say, we got, let's say, with overtime, maybe like 10 minutes here, and do you want to where do we want to go? Because I could also offer something. And
is it a completely different direction, or is it?
I think it might be a good closure to the question that we posed in the very beginning. Are humans,
so you go
are
first,
humans becoming an
like
endangered
kind of
species? But
mine's like a joke to that, but not really. So maybe you should go first. All right, that's how I feel it. You go first, and then I'll.
Okay. Can you actually, if I send you a link, because I'm broadcasting from my computer, I can't also show a video and audio. If I send you this, okay, open it in the meantime and see if you can, if it just get it, set it up, and in the meantime, I'll tell you what this is about. So, we were asking the question: are we indeed becoming an endangered species? By the way, we didn't come up with this question. Experts like what was her name? Swan, something.
Swan. Hey, nice.
Right? Did I say it correct? Anyway, so experts like her, epidemiologists, and other people who are looking at those lower, decreasing sperm counts and infertility and things like that. These are some of the experts that are saying, statistically speaking, we might be becoming an endangered species. So, so we didn't invent that. In any case, another thing that's happening in the background of this whole infertility, men are becoming single, women don't want to have kids, all that kind of, issue. There's also the planet that we're on that also it reinforces the question. Our relationship with the planet and what's happening to the climate, the worsening climate destabilization. situation, that is also really reinforcing the question. Every week you see another headline that says scientists are saying we're in a mass extinction. Scientists are saying we have this century. Scientists are saying we have a decade. There's all kinds of predictions. They're all bad. And here is a solution. Check this out. Let me just kind of show you a couple things here. Oh, you can't see this. Sorry. Here's a solution. What do you think? For the global warming situation. There's a startup that says
that's got Bill Gates written all over it.
There's a startup that says
What's it called when you bet against something in the stock market? I should do that.
Short.
They're saying these scientists, smart people, engineers, entrepreneurs, technologists, scientists, they're saying, listen, we can solve things. No, this is serious. This is serious stuff.
No, I just read. I read the subtitle there. We joke / not joke. It's partly a company, partly a cult.
But what they're trying to do, let me explain. What they're trying to do is
What could go wrong?
Right.
they're basically saying let's dim the sun by releasing some chemicals that create some sort
I'm
of a
going to
shield.
assume that they probably took into account the billions of variables that you would need to take into account when you want to.
There's no
when you
question
live
that
with
that's what they
nature,
did.
right?
They literally want
question. I don't
to.
question
Here we
that.
go. Check this out. They literally want to release helium balloons filled with sulfur dioxide. That's basically the idea.
help us.
Anyway, okay, put that in your back burner for a second, and then at the same time, check this out. Chris, can you put that video on? Put just the first. Just
Play the video?
Play the first minute. Let's just, if we can actually watch what he's hearing. This is an astronaut that got back from, not just right now, like this is an astronaut that was in space, and this is what he says with regards to our whole problem here on
When we
yeah, exactly, we can hear
okay,
it. Great, we
you
can
want me
hear
to,
it.
You want me to just leave it like this?
Maybe you can just kind
Can you hear
of
it?
zoom in the side so we see him a bit more. Yeah, it's good enough. It's good enough, but just play it from the
That's as big
beginning.
as it's getting.
To deal with issues such
Yeah, just
as
play it from the
global warming,
beginning.
deforestation, biodiversity loss as standalone.
Okay.
See
Go.
our planet from the perspective of space, certain things become undeniably clear. We keep trying to deal with issues such as global warming, deforestation, biodiversity loss as standalone issues, when in reality, they're just symptoms of the underlying root problem. And the problem is that we don't see ourselves as planetary. When I looked out the window of the International Space Station, I saw the paparazzi-like flashes of lightning storms. I saw dancing curtains of auroras that seemed so close it was as if we could reach out and touch them. And I saw the unbelievable thinness of our planet's atmosphere. In that moment, I was hit with the sobering realization that that paper-thin layer keeps every living thing on our planet alive. I saw an iridescent biosphere teeming with life. I didn't see the economy. But since our human-made systems treat everything, including the very life support systems of our planet, as the wholly owned subsidiary of the global economy, it's obvious from the vantage point of space that we're living a lie. We need to move from thinking economy, society, planet to planet, society, economy. That's when we're going to continue our evolutionary process. I'm Ron Garin. I'm a former NASA
Okay,
astronaut.
let's pause it here. There's maybe go to 340, something like that. 340. I wrote 342 to myself. See if you can go there. Just for another half.
We are interdependent.
Okay.
We're not going to have peace on Earth until we recognize the basic fact of the interrelated structure of all reality. Now, the interrelated structure of all reality, that's not a cliche, that's not a philosophy, that's the reality of the world that we live in. That's fact. That what happens to one directly affects all of us indirectly, that we are all inextricably linked together in this fabric of life that we call Earth.
Okay, I think that's
If
enough.
the overview effect is
This is an astronaut. Now, I just want to show. Just think
So
about.
am I closing this?
Yeah, close it. Just think about the juxtaposition, right? Both, like, take this astronaut or other astronauts and take those scientists. Both are tackling the same problem: climate change, global warming, whatever you want to, call it. Both are looking at the same problem, but from a completely
Dummies who want to release some gas into California versus this astronaut.
Yeah, basically, I mean, right? Like, how ridiculous is, both are smart people. Both are very intelligent. These are accomplished, smart people. And one side is saying, let's basically shield the planet from the sun in a very artificial way so we can continue polluting and depleting and raping the
Yeah.
planet. And
That's
the
the
other
fine text. So we can continue.
that's basically, I'm just translating it in a and then the
And
other,
then you have someone who left that
Who
part,
left the
that
planet.
system,
Exactly.
got a different perspective. Yeah,
and
I love the overview
he
effect.
had, exactly, this is called the overview effect. He called it, if you watch the whole video, he frames it very nicely. He says, what we lack is an out of body experience to on ourselves, and this is sort of what you get when you look at Earth from from space.
Same as like some people who take psychedelics. will
Right,
claim
right,
a
of
similar
course,
thing.
of
so
course.
you can. So it's just a give me a new perspective. You either force it on me, or I can. It's self-induced, but somehow a new perspective is. Wait, I have to show you this. I've been waiting the whole time. Do you have closing? Do you have something else you want to say about this? Because it'll take me like 5 seconds. I just want to show it.
It's just that this is really all we need. It's a change of perspective. Everything, a change of perception. That's really what's all that we're missing. I mean, who's gonna take his book now that he writes seriously? Show me economic leaders and political
Right.
leaders that are now going to change the world based on that book. No, because they don't feel what he kind of glimpsed
didn't
at
have
and
that
felt.
experience.
They didn't
Yeah.
have that
Yeah,
experience.
they didn't have it.
And that just
And
kind
you
of,
can't duplicate it.
and to our point,
And how do you have that
yeah.
experience if you don't consciously go after it? You need to be near death. You need to deal with war. You need to deal with sickness. You need to deal with all these
Unfortunately.
problems until you finally have that either.
Or
you chase that
spend some
feeling,
time in an international space station
or
and
yeah,
look
for the
at
5 people who
Yeah.
get to do that, or
Yeah.
20 people who get to do that. But
Tom Cruise is going.
By the way, the kind of Richard Branson, what Jeff Bezos kind of thing is not the same thing. They're not actually going out to to experience the same thing the astronauts are. They're just kind of going
Right.
slightly above the atmosphere, kind of thing, and then go back.
Taking a high. They're taking
no,
like a
they're
high
going from like
plane
New York
flight.
to Washington D.C. They're just or even less.
Yeah,
Anyway, Seth,
exactly.
keep going. I
No, that's
interrupted you.
the point, that we have the opportunity to consciously build and develop this process for ourselves, and if we don't, nature will bring us to it through pressure.
In a very horrible way, yeah.
But I want to hear
Well, we
Chris's
talked about
joke.
mass extinction. It's not a joke. It's kind of a joke, but not really. It plays really well with what we're talking about. We're worried / not worried, right, about going extinct. If that is a concern for you, don't worry. Remember how we talked about the PFAS and how the chemicals, the forever chemicals, were in our water? Remember how we talked about that? We're like, yeah, I can't escape it. We're all gonna,
Yeah.
A few months later, there's some scientists that work on reversing that process already with like super cheap. It takes like 15 seconds, and they're saying that they can clean it out. Doesn't matter. So with the extinction issue, there's a company now. It's called. I'm not going to share it because there's not really a lot to see here, but it's called Colossal. I don't know if you guys have heard this.
Oh,
but
I thought it's something else that I
heard-
saw. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Maybe you did see it if you watched.
No,
Joe
no,
Rogan.
it's not. It
But
wasn't.
he had a guy. He dropped this, and it's a company that's cloning
Cloning
woolly
what?
mammoths and bringing them back and bringing them into Siberia. Just straight up Jurassic Park is what they're doing. And they're actually already doing it. They are literally actually already doing it. They're bringing back woolly mammoths into like this closed off park and somewhere in like, tundra location right in Siberia. And they're mixing it with a certain DNA of to actually have an Indian elephant give birth to a woolly mammoth with CRISPR and all kinds of like gene editing solutions that they found. And I mean, they're already. I mean, you can pay like I don't know how many thousands of dollars to clone your dog if your dog wants to. You can already do that. So this is
What-
not like fairy tale stuff. This is
Wait, so what's the goal of that?
well, okay. So this is interesting. The goal actually is to balance out the carbon emissions, and there's a way that
Oh
they
my
can explain it.
God.
I can explain it to you if you want, but basically what they're using is carbon credits in order to replicate the idea of these large fauna going through this type of terrain, making changes in the terrain, which we know is a
Okay.
serious thing with the wolves changing the rivers, right? So there's changes in the terrain that they expect them to make, which makes the ice colder, packs it in tighter, makes it colder, reflects less light, and actually lowers the temperature. But
And then
there's some kind of process
they'll
to it.
mercifully kill the woolly mammoths after they do the job, right?
And take their tusk. Yeah, that's
Right.
the idea. So you don't have to worry about it.
long
If
as
we
they
go
mercifully
extinct,
kill them at the end of the
we'll have a
science-
park
at the end of the-
mercifully. Yeah, so it's
Oh man, we will go round and round and round our tails more and more and more. And even though this is showing some understanding that we're in some sort of an interdependent, integrated system with chain reactions, the one area that we can't seem to connect as human beings is our inner world to our outer world. And until we balance nature on the most inner layer, the deepest layer, the layer at which we intend towards each other and relate towards each other, what we want from our life with each other on this planet, until we get the balance there, nothing on the outside will help, and we won't be able to fix any eco crisis in
But
any
we'll
other
have
way.
tons to talk about here, and we'll be back next Thursday.
Yes, we.
Thank
You're
God.
right.
Talk
Thank
about
you.
all the ridiculous things that people are trying until they realize.
Next Thursday,
Thanks
2
for coming.
Each
p.m.
other.
Yes.
We'll see everybody next Thursday, 2 p.m.
Hopefully
Stay
we
connected in the
we
hearts,
won't
everyone.
go extinct until then. Yeah. See you soon.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Beyond the border, there's a song that plays, and in our hands we have a choice that waits. Together rising high above these lights, and see the world through your eyes. In every moment there's a chance to see another vision of what we could be. Behind the colors of the shattered